new book, When the Hill Came Down. We're really excited. This is her third novel, I believe, for adults. And she just keeps getting better and better. And this is, a really fascinating story. We're lucky tonight to have another author that's going to join us and actually do a little bit of question and answer with Sue. Gerard Collins. And Gerard is again an author who lives in New Brunswick but is from Newfoundland and has a number of books published, I think mostly by Breakwater. Is that correct, Gerard?
One by Breakwater and 2 previous were by Creative, but they're now defunct.
Oh yes, well that's Breakwater to me because they haven't bought it by now.
Breakwater has them all now.
Yeah. So since I was a little late trying to get logged on to my computer, I don't use this computer very often. I'm at home, and it just seemed to take a while to get everything updated and logged on. I'm going to turn over to you, Gerard, to start your program for the night. Thanks again, everybody. I'm going to mute too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tara Lee, very much. So I think I'm unmuted and the screen is frozen just a little. I'm not sure if anybody can hear me.
We can still hear you, and you're unfrozen now.
Okay, good. Okay, so hi everyone. First of all, thanks Susan for inviting me to be part of this book launch. I think we're calling it a launch, right? It's not just a reading, it's got all the bells and whistles, including an interview with the author. So thanks for that. And I get a feeling you're getting a pretty good turnout here tonight, because I think people just love the idea that they can spend a little bit of time with you, time that they maybe didn't get to spend during the early days of the pandemic back in March and April. So as I think I just saw one person say, this is certainly a bright spot in what could end up being a sort of a dark winter. So the more times we can get together like this, the better. So Susan, first of all, I want to make sure you can hear me. Can you hear me?
So you're muted. You can demute yourself.
Okay, I'm good. Yes, I can hear you, Gerard.
But demute is not as bad as it sounds. Not like it used to be in the old days, right? Yeah. I'm glad I checked before you started to share your wisdom with us. So again, thank you very much, Susan, for inviting me to be part of this evening. So first of all, how are you feeling this evening?
I'm okay. I'm almost done my 1 glass of wine. I'm just great. Thank you.
Oh, good. Yeah. Is this going to be a 2-glass night? That's what I want to know.
No,
maybe.
There's nobody here to go fetch it for. There's nobody to go fetch it for me, so it's going to be 1.
Oh no. Okay, so we'll go with that. So first of all, I'm going to start with asking you directly about When the Hill Came Down, because I finished reading it just a short time ago, and as another author, I can appreciate the complexity of not only the emotional complexity of the characters in this book, but also the complexity of the plot or the plotting. And I'm wondering, did you find it, compared to anything else you've written, did you find it difficult, either structurally or emotionally, really, to write this book?
No, I don't think structurally I found it as difficult as Fear of Drowning, my novel, last year's release. It was more, that one had more jumping around time wise and character wise. It was lacking something, and I went to Italy with Gerard and Janie 2 years ago, or however long ago it was. It seems like a lifetime ago. And I found on that trip kind of what was lacking. So I came back and reworked it. So it wasn't difficult. Emotionally, it has quite a impact for me, because I got to read it out loud to my dad in the last few months of his life. And so that it'll always have that kind of an emotional connection for me.
Okay, I can see that. You mentioned Italy, and not for the first time that I've heard you say that, but it almost sounds a little magical how you went to Italy, and suddenly you figured it all out. But I'm wondering, and I was there, and I saw you day after day, of course, and I'm wondering though, how did you work it out? Like, what was there a certain moment or point when you went, oh, I know what I'll do? Like, was there that sort of a moment? And what was that moment?
Yes, there was. There was that sort of a moment, Gerard. And I think as writers, we have lots of those moments. I think those are the highlights of what we do. I was in Italy. I had a beautiful room in the villa that we stayed in. I stayed alone in my room quite a bit on that trip for several reasons. One being that my mom had just passed away a couple of weeks before that, and I was exhausted. But I got a I don't know what it was, whether it was a text or whether it was a Facebook message or something from my aunt, who tends to send a multitude of things, some of which I quickly discard. But this was about Beulah Camp, which for some people on this Zoom event will know what Beulah Camp is, but it spoke very much to me that that was where I needed to go with Helen and Vera's story. I think, no, Vera, she's not Vera. I had Vera's, oh yeah, she is. I always think it was Vera. What book is she in? I went there, and that was a personal journey. It's a place that's very played a big part in my life, my father's life, my grandparents' life. So yeah, that came to me, and I worked on it while I sat by the pool in the sun in Italy.
Okay, I'm curious, what is it about Beulah Camp that you felt such
Oh
a
dear,
connection
we do not have enough time in this interview to totally go there. But Beulah Camp is a Reformed Baptist camp, enclave, village. I don't know. It takes a lot of explanation for those people that don't know. And I certainly don't disrespect it. It certainly was very pivotal in my family's life. But it wasn't always a happy place for me. It was a very judgmental, difficult place for me. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do know, but I don't have enough time to tell you.
Okay, yeah, maybe another glass of wine some other time.
Yeah,
So
maybe so, which would be totally count.
So is this book number 9 so far? 9, 8, or 9?
This is number 9.
9. Oh,
And
okay.
publisher Terry Lee, who I love dearly and works so hard for me, she's been with me every step of the way. And I know she just zoomed in this Zoom call after, I think, teaching yoga tonight. So I don't fault her for getting the number wrong, but it's my 4th adult novel, my 9th novel. And I have all age readers, so I try not to categorize them, but I know that the market does and some readership does. But yeah, it's number 9.
So when you say you don't categorize them, do you feel there's maybe a slight difference in audience, or do you even think about audience when you're writing?
I taught school for 30 years, and I certainly had an audience in front of me every day. And they were usually grade 4, like 9, 10-year-olds. But I never found that audience a whole lot different than an adult audience. They were still looking for a story that spoke to them, that meant something to them, that touched them. And I read some difficult stuff over the years to my grades that some people might shy away from. So I do tend to think that a story well told and a good story that makes you laugh and cry and question things and look at your own memories and past or whatever is really what I write. So I do, sometimes zero in on a certain audience if I think, I don't know. It's all about, who. I don't know the answer to that question. I haven't come upon it myself. I certainly know my first book was geared to grade 4. The character was in grade 4. It was from my experience teaching grade 4. But I've had readers from grade 4 to 99 years old that are still impacted by the story.
So, yeah, I can see why. So you don't necessarily start out thinking, oh, this is going to be a young adult, or this one is going to be an adult. You just write what you write. Is that fair?
I just write what I write, I guess. Yeah, I sometimes you know, content. I mean, there's a certain level of consideration for what content you might leave out or put in, or detail you might put in, swear words you might put in or not put in.
Yeah.
Sometimes they sneak in and they get taken out or put back in or whatever.
So about how long
Yeah.
would you say, and I'm thinking also compared to some of your other books, but relatively speaking, from inception, I mean, from the very first idea, and like where were you? Were you writing something else when you had the idea for this book, or was there a lull or a pause in between books, or how was this writing this book any different in any way from any other book you've written? That's what I'd really like to know, especially in how it came about and to its finish.
It came, I have told this story before, and I would tell it if I was standing in front of a crowd at the Legion for a book launch, so I'll quickly tell it. But this came as a dream, and a couple of my books have come as dreams, and I sometimes wake up and think, oh yeah, that'd be a good book. And then with the wisdom that comes with being awake through the day, I realized, no, not so good. But I had the dream that the house collapsed in an avalanche of mud and rocks and debris, and that the mother threw the baby out the window. That was the dream. And at Sunday supper the next week, I told in detail this dream, which everybody loves when people tell their dreams in detail, not. After telling it, I said, I'm going to write a book about that. And my youngest son, in his wry wisdom and humor, said, well, there's the end of Mom's writing career. And I said, oh, I'm not the first writer to have written from dreams. I think Alice in Wonderland, perhaps, opium-induced dreams, I don't know. But it did come as a dream, and I went from that. And it overlapped some writing of some other books. I started it while something else was being done, and then got back to it. And as I said, I got back to it on my trip, purposefully took it with me to get back to on the trip to Italy, and then spent the rest of that year, or that winter, working on it. So yeah, I forget what the question was, Joy, but yes.
Yeah.
I think that I'm just butting in here, but I think it was like 2 years ago you first sent the original manuscript, wasn't it? So then you worked it since.
Yes.
So
at least that, and then I went back to it, and yeah, I think that was the case.
So, and Italy was in 2018, in the fall of 2018 as well. And
right.
I believe I read a little bit of it, and it surprises me that it comes from a dream. Granted, there is a dream-like quality to the book, I found, but it's so vivid and so detailed and so rich. It surprises me to hear that the genesis for the book was a dream. I'm not sure there's even a question that follows that, but I had found myself wondering, had you known somebody that this happened to? Because it does seem real, and I won't give too much away, but it does feel very much like maybe you drew on real life for some things now. But instead of asking you how much was drawn from real life, I'll ask you, what's your usual reaction to that question when people ask you how much is real and how much is fiction? What's your reaction as a writer, both your inside voice and your outside voice? What are you thinking inside?
Oh dear, you're calling on my inside voice. I don't know. I mean, I think imagination and storytelling, even if you're telling a real story, you fall back on, a little bit of embellishment and imagination. How much is real and how much is not real? That's a challenge, because I write, for the most part, in a setting on the place where I live. So I have a lot of people, like I remember in 10,000 Truths, several people saying, what foster home was that? Where is that foster home? And no, it's fiction. My dad in the sewing basket said, are you trying to tell me I've got a twin brother that I don't know about? Dad, it's fiction. I had a neighbor come and say, there never was a gray farm on the Walton Lake Road like there is in Maple Sugar Pie. And I have to explain that it's fiction. This one, coincidentally, it's a story dear to my heart, is that Gladys Titus, who I dedicate or put in the acknowledgements, and I visited for a year every week, or tried to, and she passed away at 96 a year ago. I gave a copy to each of her children, and her daughter called me after she read it And she said, I started reading it and I was so angry. And I said, oh, why were you angry? And she said, because I thought, Mother never told me this story. Mother always told us stories. She never told us the story when the hill came down. And I said, you know, that's because it's fiction. It's made up. There is no hill that came down in Holderville in the 1940s. And she went, well, at least, you know, she thought that her mother had pulled the wool over her eyes and not told her that important story. So it is a mixture of truth and fiction and place and people and I, you know, and I guess I can't be accused really of not getting it right because I'm making it up as I go along, but I'm using the places and the people and an essence of what means a lot to me.
Yeah, it's difficult to make people understand that sometimes, I think. I remember it was Joel Hines, another Newfoundland writer, who said, you know, no matter what you say, people are going to think it's about you, no matter what, no matter how, even if it's 95% fiction, people will tend to want to see themselves or their neighbors or their, you know, their countrymen, so to speak, or countrywoman. But I did find, I do want to ask you something else, which sort of borders on that kind of question. But my favorite character, I will say, was Keith. He has this fantastic narrative arc, and it's like, in some ways, and you'll know what I mean when I say this, sort of an inversion of Boo Radley from To Kill a Mockingbird. Some ways it's like you didn't follow that trope, and God love you for not following that trope. But he turned out to be my favorite. But I'm wondering about the issue of, or the matter, I should say, of choosing the perspective of Summer to begin telling the story. Well, she doesn't tell the story; it's from her perspective. So I'm wondering what, considering the richness of the characters and the plethora of characters that you have here, why did you choose that as your starting point? And was that your original starting point with Summer?
Okay. I'll very quickly, I'll tell you, you probably, you won't remember, but my starting point was the prologue that I stick in the middle when Summer decides she's going to start to write Keith's story, and it's been simmering for a long time, and then she gets it in the prologue, is how she begins her book, When the Hill Came Down. I started the book initially with that, and had actually did a couple of readings of it at different events as just kind of a book I was working on. You had suggested to me not necessarily to take that out at the beginning, but to develop Summer a bit more before that, or maybe I think that's what you suggested. But anyway, that's what I did. But the importance of Summer was that she was new. She was a new kid, and I am speaking from experience there because I was a new kid in grade 7 on the peninsula, and being a new kid, you don't know all the stories that everybody else knows. You don't know why they call some kid the stinky kid, or why they call him the dumb kid, or whatever, that everybody else knows and has known for time, since time began. And to the kid that gets called the stinky kid, or the kid that, you know, is stupid because he fell out of 2 stories, you're a lifeline when you're brand new, because there's a clean slate there, and you can maybe come out looking like you really are until they get to know that story. So that's why I started with Summer. And Summer in a lot of ways was me, and also because she was the new kid, she was the summer kid, she didn't really belong there, and felt like he didn't belong there either, even though he'd lived there all his life. So that's why I started with Summer, and she was the one that pulled Keith away from his story, but back to his story, which is what he needed to do. He needed to get back to the story to truly find out who he was, to give tribute to his parents and who they were, and the whole, you know, rather than just be the story that everybody thought they knew or knows.
So she, in a way, she was your way into the story, and Keith's way into the story, you might say.
Yes, and Keith's way out, you know, because I mean, her family was the first one to believe in him and to see his talent and to, you know, pay attention to who he really was.
Yeah, and that's not really giving anything away, of course, for anybody who hasn't bought the book yet and read it yet.
Mhm.
Certainly not giving anything away. In fact, I think that would be more of an enticement to want to read the entire story. Is there a character in the book? I've got maybe just a couple more questions before, because I know you have a reading you want to do. But is there a character in the book that you feel proud to say that you offer the world a fictionalized version of that character? I find, like, having read or having written a few manuscripts myself, I know what it's like sometimes. There is this divide between fiction and fact and real life and real history and so on. But I'm wondering, do you feel pretty safe in saying that there's one character that, by God, I'm really glad that I captured something of that relationship or something of that person in this book, or even in another book if you prefer, but I'm particularly concerned about this one.
Oh, don't take me to another book right now, Gerard. I can't go there. That's a really hard question.
Yeah.
I think the relationship between Vera and Helen, I never had a sister. I had cousins who were at the event, and I thank them for coming. But the very complicated relationship, the jealousy, the mental illness. I mean, there's definitely that impacted, but also the enabling that happened with Helen's family. But yet I felt I felt really sorry for Helen by the end of writing it, and I didn't see her as a demon or a devil or the evil. I just saw her as a very troubled, unhappy woman that never got the help she needed from a traumatic event, and plus her personality, and the two very different personalities. And Vera, how hard she worked to keep everything together, and she was all things to all people, and so I think those two probably, if that answers your question.
Yeah.
And Keith, of course. I mean, and I loved Keith and Summer, and that's what I got.
I think, without me even going back there, I think that answers at least most of the question, and maybe answers a question that I didn't ask but wished I had. So it's all good. I will say, I thought that the jealousy and that relationship that you talk about it's more than anything else what gives the book its complexity and its depth, its emotional resonance, I think. And I think it's a tough one, but I think as a reader it's enjoyable for that reason. So just wanted to toss that your way. I'm going to ask you a couple of, I guess, easier questions, maybe. But do you enjoy being an author? What's your favorite part of being an author?
Writing. Starting. It's funny. I just finished the edits of the book that we hope to put out in the spring, and I do love sitting down to something I've already written. It seems so easy. I mean, it's certainly, my editor stretches me and I have to do more work on it, but it seems like the hard work's already been done. But saying that, I like the hard work too, going from one, very, snippet of an idea to getting it to where it needs to be, or where I think it needs to be. I love the opportunity. I've said this so many times that I dreamt about being three things when I grew up: a mother, a teacher, and an author. And I spent so many years being a mother and a teacher that author was always put on hold. And I try to squeeze it in here and there, and do all the things that I did over the years to try and be an author. And so now I really feel it's just a real privilege and opportunity to show up and be in my office every day. Not every day, every day I can be, and schedule myself as diligently as I can. And I just love it. I just love the chance to show up and try to craft a story the best that I can. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that's a pretty solid answer. So the usual question to finish would be to ask you what you're working on next. But I happen to know what you're working on next, and I happen to know what's coming out next. I'm sure you'll want to tell everybody, and I even know what's coming after that. So in addition to you telling people what's coming next, I'm hoping you'll give us a peek into what's after that. if there is, or if there even is anything yet, because I think that'll give us some insight as to how your mind works as an author. So what's up next after
Oh,
that and after that?
oh, thank you, Gerard. That's hilarious how my mind works. I'm really thrilled to be putting a young adult novel out in the spring called Skyward. I've been working on it with my editor, Penelope Jackson, and she really made me dig and stretch to get the first edits to be better than they were. And I love that part of it. So I'm hoping that in the spring, and I'm hoping in the fall that we'll have another adult book. It's called The Wright Retreat, W-R-I-G-H-T, the last name Wright. And this one is Scotland. I didn't get the idea in Scotland, but I went to Scotland with the idea of paying close attention, not to duplicate or try to have the same people or characters. But I wanted the book is about a writing retreat and 10 writers that come to the retreat, and their backstories and their interconnected stories and so on. And I was given gifts in Scotland that just added to this book. I don't think anything that I'll be libelous for, that I'm like I said, I'm not mimicking anyone in particular, but there were some gifts that I was given to develop those characters. So that's the next fall, I hope. I am working on the third book in the so-called whatever of 10,000 Truths and Waiting for Still Water. Jasper was adopted in Waiting for Still Water, and I'm trying to write a book called Jasper's Road, where it's from his perspective when he's 13. But I keep getting distracted. I think I'm on about page 80, and I keep going back to it. But I'll get back to it when the time is right. And I just don't feel like the well has gone dry yet. So I feel good about that.
Good. Well, hopefully you'll have the pleasant distraction of going to Scotland again next year. Fingers crossed.
Yes, absolutely.
So I don't know if I'll get a chance to talk again, quite possibly not. So I just want to say, not only thanks for asking me to do this, Susan. I know you're going to be doing a reading, and I'm not sure what happens after the reading. Maybe some audience questions, I think was suggested. But as I started to say, I want to not only thank you for doing this, but for sharing your wisdom with people, because you've been with Janie and I on some writing retreats now several times, and I've gotten to know you really well. And I know that you have wisdom. When I listen to you speak to other writers, and you're so generous with sharing, and I don't think you even necessarily see it as wisdom so much as these are just things that you know. These are things that you enjoy talking about and sharing with people in hopes that it makes a difference maybe. But mostly I think you just enjoy people almost as much as you enjoy the writing. So it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you once again. It always is great to connect with you, and I really appreciate the kinds of things that this evening you managed to say to people in response to those questions in your usual very generous way. So thank you very much for that, Susan.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Gerard. They were great questions. I really appreciate the time you took to prepare them. I know how busy you are with Hush Sisters and everything that's coming your way. What?
Weeks and weeks.
All right.
Yeah, no.
Weeks and weeks. Yeah. Sleepless nights. Oh, thank you. Okay. I think I'm going to read now. I think that's the plan. I am trying to look at all the comments on the side, but I can't do that. I can't really multitask, and I hope I can go back and respond to them.
I can read them out after you read if you want.
I was just going to say the same thing.
Oh, okay. That would be great, Jen. Okay, I'm going to read 3 short passages from my new novel, When the Hill Came Down. They give a brief introduction to the 2 main characters that Gerard and I were talking about. 15-year-old Keith, when the novel begins, he's 15. He is the baby who survived when the hill came down. And Summer Barkley, the new girl, he meets in September 1969. So I'm going to try. I'm a little parched now because I'm out of water and out of wine, but I'm going to read those three passages to you. Summer Rain Barkley, a strange girl with an even stranger name, just a summer kid, seen occasionally at Redmore's store, the wharf, or at an occasional community summer event, always feeling like she didn't belong. just a summer kid until June, when her parents sold their Fredericton home, deciding to live year-round in the Long Reach summer house. Long Reach, a long stretch of rough, hilly dirt road from the St. James Anglican Church to the Westville Ferry beside the meandering St. John River. Summer knew she didn't actually live in Long Reach. She understood the Barclay property was in Gray's Mills. Gray's Mills, the Cedars, Long Reach, White's Bluff, Holderville, Bedford, Ghost Hollow, Carter's, and Harding's Point. She knew the names, but had only a vague idea of the boundaries. And confusion about place names and where they stopped and started was apparently proof positive that Summer Barclay was not from here. Standing stupidly, looking the part of a new kid, probably was what caught the attention of a man standing at the office door, who Summer quickly concluded was the principal. Mr. McGuire introduced himself, said her name, grade, and homeroom teacher, and motioned for her to follow him down the hall, through a set of double doors and up a steep set of stairs. Apparently, not many new students were arriving today. "Throw him out, boys. Getting thrown down a few steps isn't going to hurt him. Dropping 2 stories jumbled his brain, and you can't fix stupid." Summer Barclay heard laughter coming from an opening off a landing at the top of the first section of the stairway. She kept walking until she could see that doorway to the left of the landing. A doorway to the left of the landing had several steps leading to what she quickly deduced was a boys' washroom. A boy tumbled down a few steps, hitting the landing floor inches from her feet. The walk across the field, where did I go? Where did I go?
You're still here.
Okay, I'm still there. I just dropped on my keyboard. Am I still there?
You are still
Where did
here.
I go? Okay, all right, I'll keep reading. The walk across the field was silent, but when they stepped onto the wood road trail, Keith started talking as if he had been rehearsing exactly what he was going to say. The words came out matter-of-factly and in a long, uninterrupted dialogue. "My parents died when I was 3 years old. I've never even seen a picture of them. The house was destroyed and they were killed. Suffocated, they say, when the house collapsed and the mud came in. It sounds crazy and I don't talk about it, but I want you to know what happened. People talk about it as if it was a horror movie. People tell the story like I was an extra or a prop, just an afterthought in the good story it makes when a whole house fills with the rushing flood of an avalanche of mud, rocks, and debris, knocking out windows and collapsing walls. She threw me out. They don't know for sure it was her, but I like to think it was. I landed on the roof of the veranda, and somehow I was still there when they found it on the ground hours later. Wrapped in a blanket and not even crying, my Aunt Helen always said. That's what they based their theory of me being simple on. A baby wide-eyed and not even crying after dropping 2 stories must have some damage to his brain, plus the fact I didn't talk until I was 4 years old. I wanted to tell you the story myself. The damn story seems to be all anyone cares to know about me. You would think after 15 years it might fade, but instead it just gets better, more far-fetched and more entertaining, apparently to everyone but me. I would be happy if I never heard the story again. I thought about not telling you and just enjoying knowing one person who doesn't know the story, but I figured you probably knew it by now anyway and wouldn't even show up. Why did you think I wouldn't come if I knew it? I didn't hear it, by the way. The only thing I heard was your parents were dead and you had been thrown out the window. Oh yeah, that's their favorite part. I only get teased about it a few times a day at school. It doesn't come up much when I'm somewhere working, although I have heard whispered references to it. And it's not only the kids. The teachers I've had like to bring it up one way or another to explain any trouble I have, whether doing long division or failing a test on the British monarchy. It's either in a nice, sappy, pitiful way, like the poor little boy took an awful blow to his head, or the not so nice ones. He's dumb as dirt was a favorite of my grade 6 teacher. That's awful, Keith. Oh, you get used to it. I'm not dumb, just so you know. There are lots of things I can do. Just so happens reading and spelling aren't two of them. I can do math though, despite getting a little fetched up on long division in grade 4. It could have been the fact that Miss Harvey didn't know how to teach it. I'm not sure she knew how to do it. Let's both talk about other things. For starters, tell me one of those things you do really well. I wasn't going to show you until we got to the falls, but since you asked, Keith pulled a folded piece of paper out of his back pocket and passed it to Summer. Summer unfolded the paper, and what she saw made her stop walking. She sat on a nearby log to have a good look at a drawing of a landscape of trees and rocks framing a beautiful waterfall. Every detail was perfect. And even though the sketch was done with pencil, she could almost imagine colors in the lush scene. Thank you.
That was great. I think we're going to turn to answering questions now. Am I right, Jen?
Yeah, I'm just going through some of the comments. And so we have from Patricia, one of the few bright points of COVID is being able to attend events I wouldn't be able to travel to. Congratulations, Susan. Then we have Martha saying, Bill and I are joining from our cozy cabin in Lunenburg. We have our dogs with us, and Chieftain is showing a keen interest in watching Sue and learning more about her book. Then Odette says, I love the book. Keith was my favorite, but I also loved reading Helen too, an interesting character. And then from Patricia, Susan, do you feel that you come to think about a place differently or know more about it by writing about it or setting a story there?
Okay, do I come to think about a place differently? I've said before that I write about, for the most part, the Kingston Peninsula, places that I think I know about. Of course, people that have been here longer would put me in my place and tell me I don't know everything. You know, I love this place, but I also see its faults and its shortcomings, and maybe sometimes writing makes me face up to those a little bit more. Patricia, thanks for asking the question.
And if anybody else has any questions that they want to just verbally say, you can unmute yourself or take your video or speak up, and or you can type it into the comments. We've got a few more minutes with Susan, and would love to hear from anyone. Bob Langford says, congratulations, Sue.
Well,
Thanks, Bob.
You know, this was sort of touched on a little bit with Gerard's questions, but I mean, you have so many ideas, and I mean, you're so prolific. I mean, it's amazing how many people have 2 books coming out in the next year. And, you know, there is inspiration from dreams, but I mean, what do you think keeps you motivated? I mean, that's pretty amazing, really.
Well, thanks, Terry Lee. And as I say, I have to give you all the credit for, first of all, believing me in the first place, and then standing by me and being such a encouragement and support. What keeps me so motivated? Again, I say that I really feel so lucky to be doing this, something I wanted to do all my life. I think I get older and more obsessive compulsive, my family will say, but list driven and goal driven, and I guess the teacher in me, you know, needs a good lesson plan, and I don't always stick to the agenda, but I try to have a range of knowing that I'm going to be writing from September to June, and kind of have a goal in mind. So things sometimes sneak in and take over. Like I said, I keep pushing poor Jasper's Road aside, but someday it'll pop in and be the one that I need to get to. Inspiration, good writing, good writers, lots of collaboration, or not collaboration so much as just interaction with writers. Yeah, I'm just feel so blessed to be able to do what I love to do.
Hi, Susan. It's Ida. I got a question for you.
Oh, hi. Hi, Ida.
I certainly appreciated our hog at the bottom of the stairs in Scotland. Does
Nobody
Burton,
ever gets thrown down the stairs. You're fine.
does Burton ever make it into your books? Like a Burton character ever make it into your books?
Oh, thanks, Ida. I love that question. I have a character named Augustus in the book that's coming out in the spring in Skyward, and it just dawned on me the other day that Burton is our Augustus. He loves the woods. He treasures the time that he has in the woods. He sees the sanctuary and sacred place of the woods. So yeah, Burton, yeah, for sure. One of my characters I remember in Waiting for Still Water, somebody said she was a combination of Burton and his sister Mary, and I see that too. I just want to say to you, Ida, that I had to put a Newfoundlander at the right retreat, and you gave me the stunned as the quilt,
The meat and potatoes.
And so even though the character will not be Ida, she will be Ida in so many ways. So yeah, Burton definitely. I haven't gotten through these 42 years without a lot of Burton thrown in. So yeah,
Awesome.
actually the
That's
kids
good.
at the supper table tonight, my grandchildren said, now what would really upset you, Monkey, that you wouldn't be able to do your reading? What if we threw Grampy down the stairs? So I said, well, yeah, I'd just say, like, stop your moaning. I'm going to my office and shutting the door. So I'd be upset, but anyway, thanks, Ida.
You're
I have a
welcome.
question, Sue.
Hi, Jan.
I are first cousins. We are very close in age. And Sue always had a bag, even from like 7 or 8. There was things in this bag that she carried around. She would come from St. John. We lived in Moncton, and she always had a bag. And in that bag were papers. What was in that bag, Sue?
Oh, Jan, that's funny because I was always writing things down, and there were always papers and books, or not books, but stories that I made, and put them with construction paper covers and so on. And I remember such a traumatic event when I came home
You
one day, and my
lost
mother was
one.
cleaning my room, and she threw my bag out. And really, I don't know the possibilities that could have been in that bag that she threw out. But yeah, I always had a bag. Always had papers.
Always,
Yeah.
always, always. And you and I both love to read. You've obviously evolved way more because both our moms were not readers. They read the Bible religiously, daily, but to enjoy fiction was not part of their lifestyle.
No.
Maybe we were radicals. We were
Rebellious. I think it was the rebel in us. Yeah. But
but
they loved
yeah.
to talk. Yeah. They loved
Pardon
to
me?
talk and they loved to talk and tell stories. And I think maybe that's, partially responsible for what I do. Yeah. Thanks, Jan.
Different kind of storytelling, but it's definitely, sometimes it's in.
They were on
in
the phone
gene.
for hours. Honest. No, it's not laughing. That's accurate. Honest.
Remember when we used to have the long phone cords, you walk around the house doing
Yes.
the dishes.
Right.
And then just one more thing. Sue's dad, who also worked for NBTEL, he would come to my house and take the phone cord, and it would go, because it was all wrapped up in whatever else. And you have to be of a certain age to understand what I'm talking about. But he would straighten out the phone cord and then place it back on. Anyway, end of story.
Yes, for sure. I think I did just realize the other day, well, I maybe have always known, but I think my obsessive compulsiveness comes from my dad as far as needing to get everything done and done right. My daughter said to the girls, because they're going to be here this Christmas, well, you won't be able to help Monkey trim the Christmas tree because nobody can trim the Christmas tree like Monkey, but I'm going to try really hard to let them help me. Oh, I see a note from Paula. Paula was in Italy with us. She's still at work and has to leave now for the end of the day. It was great to see you, Paula, as well. Thank you. She just ordered my book from the local bookstore. Thanks.
And Ellen also said, thanks, Sue, for not revealing too much of my Christmas reading.
Yeah. Oh, and I see Michelle. She was in Scotland with us. We had lots of good walks and lots of talk about writing and life. Yeah. Hi, Michelle.
And Jane too, don't forget Jane, saying well done, enjoyed listening to the launch and your reading of your new book. Just about Ellen.
Jane. Thank you.
So one of the exciting
Nice.
things is with this year we've got guaranteed placement in the stores, like Chapters and Indigo stores, on the tables right in front of the stores for your book. So they're having special little local favorites selections, and they've only chosen 30 books, and this is one of them. So people who haven't seen it yet will be able to see it on those tables when they sort of go into the big Chapters Indigo stores. Indigo in St. John is one of them for sure. So that's
Wow.
another
That's great. Thanks, Terry Lee. That's good to hear. Thank you.
And of course, you're still selling
back.
at the markets too, right? So how?
Well, the market, yeah, the market's
Yeah.
done. We had 2 really
Oh,
good
so-
days, but I have another sale coming up at a friend's house or a neighbor's house on Friday and Saturday. So yeah, I'll be selling a few more, and that'll be great. Thank you.
Well, excellent. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We have few other comments. We said Michelle from Elizabeth. Congratulations, Susan. Enjoyed being part of your book launch. Started your book last night. She has to sign off. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I think we'll close it out. Unless you had
Yeah,
anything
well, thanks.
else.
And I do want to also say thank you again to Gerard for, doing such a great job with the question and answer. And, it sounds like you had a new book too, Gerard. You were
Yeah, just came out about 3 weeks ago, I think, The Hush Sisters. So thank you. I had a ball tonight. Thank you so much.
And Gerard has an event at Westminster Books this Saturday as well.
Yeah, so check that out too.
Thank you.
Some great local talent for sure. So I'll have to read it myself.
Great.
I'm looking forward to it. So
You can see Gerard's book on the bookshelf behind me. You see the red with the 2 white top and bottom. It's a
Oh,
really
yes,
lovely cover when you get up close. And Gerard assured me today in my nerves that it would be fun, and it was. So I really thank you a lot, Gerard. Hi, Jenna. I can see you, Jenna. She's on mute, but my son's girlfriend in Campobello Island. She's teaching down there. Thanks for showing up.
well, that's the one thing.
It was just
that's
next to you.
I know it is kind of stressful if you haven't done this, before, but I mean, this is the one thing. I mean, Sue, you've done a lot of launches, and I guess this is your first one where you've done a sort of digital format version of it. And, the one thing that's enjoyable about that is connecting with people like your friend in Mahone Bay or, Campobello Island, that kind of thing. I mean, it does allow for a different kind of celebration. I mean, it's not quite the same as being in the hall and all that kind of thing, but there was a different way of connecting with readers, which the one good thing that's come out of COVID.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I enjoy it. I see Cheryl, our friend Cheryl. She looks like she's getting ready for, she's relaxing, laying back there relaxing. That's great. Nice to see you. Yeah, I didn't know what to expect. And I think, anything that's new is always frightening, but I'm always a basket case, a bundle of nerves on launch day. So it's kind of, yeah, this was fun. And